What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Chinochi Sports. It is your favorite host, Michael Burgess, and here comes today's recording. So, the NBA and the NBPA have decided on a 22-team playoff format. And essentially, the 22 teams that are in this playoff format are all 22 teams who had yet to be eliminated from playoff contention. So, I decided to go through all the dirty work of analyzing all 22 teams in this potential playoff format and pretty much just gave you a profile of what they need to do or just who they are as a team. So with that being said, let's get started. So in the East, to kick it off, you have Milwaukee. Now, in order to advance deep into the playoffs, Milwaukee has to find a way to find production outside of Giannis. Because if you look at all the teams they've lost to, they're all great defensive teams. They lost to Miami twice, Boston, Utah, Dallas, Philadelphia, San Antonio, Denver, and the Los Angeles Lakers. The only teams in that bunch who doesn't have a top 12 defense is Dallas and San Antonio. In the San Antonio game, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Eric Bledsoe, all three of them combined to score 47 points and shoot 17 for 45 from the field. That's less than 40%. And in the Dallas game, Giannis came to play. He scored 48 points, shooting 18 for 31 from the field. The rest of the starters combined for just 23 points and shot 9 for 34 from the field. Now, if you look at Toronto, what Toronto needs to do is rebound. Rebound, essentially, if Toronto rebounds well, they'll win. If they don't rebound well, they'll lose. If 15 of Toronto's 18 losses, they're out-rebounded. And they have been out-rebounded as a whole throughout the entirety of the season. So, if Toronto wants to make it deep in the playoffs, they need to rebound and rebound well so they can get all of their key players second chances. Now we move on to Boston. Boston, look, your young players have to step up. You're 19-1 against non-playoff teams, cool, but you're 24-20 against everyone else. 2018, we gave y'all a break. A lot of y'all were first-year, second-year players. Y'all were too young. Y'all had lost Kyrie early in the season. Y'all had lost Gordon Hayward early in the season, and y'all ran into LeBron. 2019, Kyrie was a cancer, and he ruined that locker room. So in 2020, y'all got a more locker room friendly guy, Kemba Walker. So there shouldn't be no complaints this year. There shouldn't be no complaints for why the Boston Celtics can't make a deep playoff run this year. Next, in the fourth seed, you have Miami. Now, Miami, they're probably the best 3-and-D team in the entire league. They have the best three-point percentage, and they're top 10 in opponent field goal percentage. Now, they're not the best rebounding team. They only rank 16th, but they also rank second in opponent rebounds. So they may not grab a lot of rebounds, but neither will you. And their threes are essentially their keys to success. Whenever they win, they shoot 42%. When they lose, they shoot 33%. So if they're up in that 38, 39, 40% range, they're good to go. Also, Miami is a very resilient team if they got 18-6 against all of the Eastern Conference playoff teams. Coming in next, you have Indiana. For Indiana to make it deep, Victor Oladipo has to elevate this team. In the 2018-19 season, before he got hurt, he averaged 19, 6, and 5, and the team went 25 and 11. Look, Sabonis, T.J. Warren, Brogdon, Oladipo, Turner, that's a formidable starting lineup with both offensive and defensive talent. And they have a solid bench coming up with Jeremy Lamb, Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday, Dougie McDermott, and T.J. McConnell. So, Indiana's probably one of the deepest teams in these entire playoffs. But it doesn't matter about depth when it comes to the playoffs. It comes from who's going to elevate the team to a higher standard. And for this team, it has to be Victor Oladipo. Next is Philadelphia. Philadelphia has to exercise their road game demons. At home, Philadelphia shoots 49% from the field, 38% from three, 76% from the line, average 113 points, allow an average of 103 points, and are 29-2. On the road, they shoot 45% from the field, 35% from three, 74% from the line, average 107 points, and give up an average of 112 points, and are 10-24. Now, this entire playoff is going to be played in Orlando. So there's not going to be any home fans for Philly to fall back on. So if Philly wants to make it deep in this playoffs as a 6 seed, they have to find a way to get rid of those road game demons and fast. Now, Brooklyn, to make it deep, they need to shoot better. Look, I understand you have a solid team. You know what I'm saying, with Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert and all those guys, but you're 26th in the league in field goal percentage, 26th in 3-point percentage, and 25th in free throw percentage. You're a good defending team. You're good. 5th in opponent field goal percentage, 11th in 3-point percentage, but you need to find a way to score more efficiently. Kyrie is coming back, which you can take that how you want. I mean, the 20 games Kyrie has played for the Nets in season, the Nets have gone 8-12, but KD is not. So you're not going to be at full steam with all of your players. So if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I either find a way to make my offense a more efficient shooting offense, or I'll just pack it up and send it for next year. Now, next you have Orlando. Orlando needs to become a better offensive team. They rank 27th in field goal percentage, 25th in 3-point percentage, and 27th in points per game. While they are a solid defensive team, they rank in the top 5 at opponents' points per game. They're still outscored by their opponents on average. They rank 2nd in turnovers, and they commit the fewest personal fouls, so they do play smart and they're opportunistic on defense, ranking 4th in blocks and 6th in steals. So what Orlando has to do is rely on that defense and find a way to improve their offense by the time play ramps up. And coming in at the 9th seed, the lone non-playoff team in the Eastern Conference to make it into this 22-team playoff format, you have the Washington Wizards, who only need to do 2 things: defend and rebound. Listen to this. Washington is last in total rebounds and rebound differential. They have a losing record when they score over, or if they score 125 or more points. They have gone 5-23 when they score 111 points or fewer. Yeah, it's that rough. So, with a league average defense, which means they would have given up 110 points in every single game they played, Washington would be 40-24 and would have been the 5th seed in this year's playoffs. They also need to learn how to defend. They rank 29th in opponent field goal percentage and 28th in opponent 3-point percentage, and they commit the 2nd most personal fouls out of anybody. What does that mean? That means games get slowed down. That means players go to the line a lot more. Your players get in foul trouble. And especially in the playoffs, it's going to be rough. Now let's move to the NBA West. First, you have the LA Lakers. I just wrote one word for them: free throws. Well, I guess that's 2 words. But anyway, they've ranked 28th in the league in free throw percentage. Also, they rank 2nd in games with more than 20 free throw attempts and 75% free throw percentage or fewer. So what's that mean? That means they get to the line a lot, yeah. But they also aren't that efficient. If the Lakers want to ensure an easy road through the playoffs, they need to find a way to hit the free throws at a better clip. Also, they need to be wary of their turnovers. In the playoffs, turnovers matter more and more and more the deeper you go, and the Lakers are tied for 9th. If they can find a way to limit those turnovers a little bit, they'll be set. Next, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. Now they lead the league in free throws attempted, but you can't rely on that coming into the playoffs because it's the playoffs. Referees like to swallow their whistles. And look, I've been hearing all season about how this team wasn't made for the regular season. They got hurt. Kawhi was hurt. Paul George was hurt. Everybody was hurt. But they're made for the postseason. So it's time for them to put the money where their mouth is, okay? That's all I've heard this entire regular season. The Clippers aren't made for the regular season. They're made for the postseason. All right, cool. So time to put up or shut up. You trade away your future to win right now. So now it's time to win, Clippers. Time to see what y'all got. If y'all don't even make it to the conference finals, that's unacceptable. If y'all get knocked out in the semifinals, even worse, the quarterfinals, yeah, nah, that's a failure of a season for this year. For the Denver Nuggets, they're 1 year older and 1 year better. It's always seemed like everyone's thought that the Denver Nuggets were always too young for success. I mean, they have been young throughout the entirety of their huge run, but still, it always seems like the Denver Nuggets always make it a year too early. It never feels like they're completely ready, or they don't play like veterans as of yet. But they know who they are, and they need to play like it. They rank 29th in pace. What's that mean? That means they like to control the ball and they like to control the clock. So if Denver wants to make it deep into these playoffs, they need to find a way to not let teams run up and down the floor on them like New Orleans or Los Angeles and teams like that. You need to find a way to keep games slow and keep games close. Because if you turn it into a shootout, I don't know if Denver can be able to handle it. Next, you have Utah. Losing Bojan Bogdanovic to a season-ending injury probably hurt the hearts of every single Utah fan in America. But regardless, Utah is still in the format, so they have to find a way to replace his production. He averaged 20 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 41% from 3, and 90% from the line. It's going to be hard to replace that production, but you have to find a way to do it if you want to advance, Utah. Also, you're not the same great team that you were last year. You ranked 8th in assists last year. This year, you're 26th. You ranked 3rd in blocks last year. This year, you're 29th. You ranked 12th in steals last year. This year, you're dead last. You are the top 3-point percentage team, but you rank 24th in pace. So what's that mean? That means you're getting up a lot of shots. You're not getting up a lot of shots. You're efficient at the shots that you hit from deep, but you don't really shoot a lot of them. So that means if you were to get into a shootout with someone, you're not necessarily a volume 3 shooting team. So, yeah. Let's move on to OKC. For OKC to go deep, CP3 has to lead this team now like he led them throughout the regular season. Now, this team is not a flashy offense. They rank 18th in scoring. They rank 28th and 27th in 3 points made and 3-pointers attempted, but they are 5th in field goal percentage, which means they know their shots, they know what to take, and they know what not to take. Now, they're not a terrific rebounding team. They're ranked 26th in total rebounding, and they're last in offensive rebounds, but they rank 6th in turnovers and 4th in personal fouls, so they play smart. Now, in order for OKC to make it deep, they have to avoid shootouts. They're ranked 10th in opponents' points per game. And the fact that they don't shoot a lot of threes, meaning that if a team gets crazy hot from 3, OKC probably isn't going to combat that by shooting threes. Or if they try to, it's not what they're used to. So I don't know if they'll be completely comfortable with it. So for OKC to make it deep, you have to find a way to play smart, play hard, and limit shootouts. When it comes to Houston, don't live and die by the three. Don't live and die by the three. Here's a stat about Houston. Whenever Houston shoots 37% or better from three this season, they were 23-1. When they shot less than 37% from three this season, they were 17-23. Don't live and die by the three, Houston. March 7th, Houston traveled to Charlotte to face the Hornets. Here is the first several possessions of the game. Turnover, miss three, turnover, miss three, turnover, miss three, offensive rebound, miss three, miss layup, and with 5 minutes and 4 seconds left in the first quarter, Covington hits a three, and they're down to the Hornets 20-3. They never would lead in that game. Yeah, that's how the Houston Rockets started off a game on the road against the Charlotte Hornets, a game which they would never lead and a game that they will eventually lose. And this is what they're taking into the playoffs. Look, I'm all for Houston going small ball, but you have to understand that you can't completely give yourself only one way to be effective. Because if that one way doesn't work, we saw what happened last year. You missed, 25, 26 straight threes against the Golden State Warriors and completely gave away that series that you were up in by 3-2. And the way you remedy that is by committing more to that style of play. Okay. Look, I'm all for shooting threes. I'm all for it. But for Houston to make it deep, you have to be able to take good shots and not take bad ones. You have to be able to not commit turnovers because you already committed to small ball. So you're not going to get a lot of rebounds. So you better hope the one shot that you do take will go into that net because you're probably not going to get the offensive rebound. You also have to make sure you force bad shots because if it's close to being a good look and it's not, and it doesn't come off the rim that far, it's not a long rebound, probably not going to get that rebound because that's how you set your team up. Moving on to Dallas. Now, Dallas, they're a resilient team. They've never lost more than 2 games consecutively, but they still lose games that they shouldn't. Here are the teams that they have a better record than currently right now. Philadelphia, Orlando, New Orleans, Minnesota, Golden State, Detroit, Brooklyn, Cleveland, San Antonio, Sacramento, Portland, and Memphis. You know what the record is against those teams? 4-27. And those are all teams they currently have a better regular season record than. But against Boston, Utah, Miami, the Lakers, and the Clippers, they're 11-1. Look, I completely understand the whole, you're supposed to punch up mantra. But punching up works as long as you aren't susceptible to the other guy below you who's punching up. And looking at Dallas, that 4-27 record against those teams who are all worse than them when it comes to record, it's not looking pretty. Also, Dallas is bad. Not even bad. Terrible in close games. They are 2-9 in games decided by 3 points or fewer, which is the worst record in the NBA of teams that have 10 or so such games, and it's the second worst record overall, only to Atlanta. And Luka has to find a way to be better in the fourth quarter. Your best player can't be shooting 43% from the field, 23% from three, and 72% from the line in the fourth quarter. Of players with 40-plus games played, Luka's 0.6 average plus-minus in the fourth quarter ranks 182nd of 249 qualified NBA players. And just another stat for you about Dallas's fourth quarter ineptitude. In the Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis have the worst and second worst, respectively, 3-point percentage in the fourth quarter of players that have attempted at least 1.5 3-point attempts on average in every fourth quarter. So Dallas relies on their best players, as they should in the fourth quarter. They rely on their best playmakers in the fourth quarter, as they should. And it comes to bite them because those players aren't efficient. Moving on to Memphis. Now, look, Memphis's young talent has to be able to step up and produce in this series, in this playoff. It's not going to have to do anything with veteran leadership at all, because they don't have any savvy veterans. The longest tenured player on their roster has been in the league for 7 years. That's it. So that young nucleus of Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, Justice Winslow, Dylan Brooks, all of them have to step up and produce. They've been producing all year, so it's time to put your money where your mouth is and go crazy right now. They're a solid rebounding team, but they struggle defending the three. They rank 9th. They have the 9th highest opponent 3-point percentage. But they are a very opportunistic defense. They rank 7th in blocking, 12th in steals. Now look, Ja Morant's a playmaker. He will know how to make plays, but he needs to understand that this is the playoffs. You won't be able to pull off all these crazy dunks on people and think that it's all going to go in or you're going to get a foul call and stuff like that. Just rein it in a little bit. Play a little bit. Just play with a little bit more caution. And I promise you, Memphis will be a surprise team in this playoffs. Now coming to Portland. Portland is a great 3-point team. They rank 4th in 3-point percentage, but they're last in assists. What does that mean? That means they will suffer against teams who have great individual defenders like the LA Clippers, because they don't really move the ball around that much. And Portland is also last in opponent rebounding, which means if they take a shot, 9 times out of 10 is going into the opponent's hands. And if the opponent takes a shot, it's a pretty good chance that's going in their hands as well. They don't defend the three terrifically well. They rank 27th in opponent 3-point percentage, but the return of Zach Collins and Yusuf Nurkic will be huge, assuming that they come back for the playoffs. Also, when it comes to the Western Conference playoff field, Portland doesn't look too hot. They've only won a third of their games, going 12 of 24. So for Portland, you have to rely on your star players. Dame Lillard has to be a superstar. CJ McCollum has to be an all-star. Carmelo has to be Carmelo. Assuming that Zach Collins and Yusuf Nurkic returns, that would be huge. And I feel like that's the part that not a lot of people are mentioning. If Yusuf Nurkic and Zach Collins come back to this team, Portland needs to be a team that people should watch. I don't care about the Clippers and all their injury history, because when I saw them at full strength when they played the Lakers and they lost. So I've seen what I needed to see on them. What I haven't seen yet is Portland's new style offense with Zach Collins and Yusuf Nurkic in the lineup. That's something to see, and I don't think Portland's going to be an easy team to knock out in this series. Next, you have New Orleans. New Orleans is probably the best mix of young talent with Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, and Zion, with veteran leadership with Jrue Holiday, Derek Favors, and J.J. Redick. Now, they are a fast-paced team. They rank 2nd in pace, 5th in points per game, and they're solid in rebounding. They rank 4th in rebounds per game, and they rank 5th in 3-point percentage and 3rd in assists. So the offense is fast, the offense is quick, and they grab a lot of rebounds. So what does that do? Establish the fast break. But here's the but. They commit the second most turnovers in the league. They're going to turn over the ball a lot. And in the playoffs, like I said before, turnovers matter more in the playoffs than the regular season. Also, They have the second worst free throw percentage in the NBA, right at 73%. And the reason is a lot of their good free throw shooters don't really shoot free throws. About 75% of this team's free throw attempts comes from players that shoot less than 75% from the line. Like Zion and Lonzo. A lot of those guys who play close to the basket and slash to the basket, they don't shoot well from the line. So, yeah, that's one thing they have to be wary of. And he also allowed the fourth most points in the NBA. They're higher than Golden State, the New York Knicks, and Cleveland. So while they may score a lot of points, they will give up a lot of points. So their pace is fast. They're a fast-playing team, so they can find a way to limit a team's scoring output. They'll be a scary team to face in these playoffs. Next, you have Sacramento. Now, Sacramento gets production from a lot of their players, as you will see from the rest of the teams that I mentioned here. They have 7 players who average 10 or more points per game. And they look solid post All-Star break. They improved in field goal percentage, assist to turnover ratio, points per game. They beat Memphis twice, the Clippers, Portland, and they lost to OKC and Toronto close. Now, they are not a good rebounding team. They're ranked 27th in the league, and their lack of interior defending means they have the 5th worst opponent field goal percentage. Not a field goal percentage, 2-point percentage, which means opponents can get in close and score easy buckets and not have to worry about shooting threes all that much. So when it comes to Sacramento, it essentially just comes down to them being an efficient team. You have to be efficient with your shots because people are going to abuse you on the inside. So as long as you're efficient with your shots and smart with your offense, you should be able to keep up with essentially anybody because people are going to go inside against you. So if you can draw them inside for twos, so you can beat them outside for threes, I don't see why not. Now, next you have San Antonio Spurs. What they have going for them is the fact that they are such a veteran-heavy team. They have probably the greatest coach of this century in Greg Popovich, and they have paid very close attention to detail. They commit the fewest turnovers in the league and have the second best free throw percentage. 7 of their players average 10 or more points per game. Now, this is not a terrific road team. They've only won a third of their road games, going 11-22, allowing 117 points. So, like I mentioned, this whole thing will be played in Orlando, so they won't be the benefit of having the San Antonio crowd, but the other teams won't have the benefit of their home crowds either. Will that affect them? Probably, but like I said, Spurs went 11-22 on the road. They went 16-14 at home. So the Spurs will probably miss their home fans probably just as much as the next team that they play. Also, they don't defend the three well. They are 26 in opponent 3-point percentage. Let's move on to Phoenix, who lead the league in assists and post a top 10 pace. They're an efficient free throw shooting offense. They're ranked 9th in free throws attempted, at 1st in free throw percentage, and they have 7 players who average 10 points a game. Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre, DeAndre Ayton, solid young nucleus, and that's about all the good I have for them. They're not a great rebounding team. They're ranked 22nd. They're ranked 22nd and 23rd in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, and they've only had 1 3-game win streak this entire season. And compare that with 5 3-game losing streaks. And they also posted a 5-18 record against the Western Conference's top 8 teams. You know who Phoenix is? Phoenix is a 40% team. They won 40% of their games before the All-Star break. They won 40% of the games after the All-Star break. So, if Phoenix wants to make it deep, find a way to win more than 40% of your games. Start there, and then we'll figure out the rest later. But yeah, so Those are my profiles on all 22 teams, and I have some final notes for you. The team that you should feel bad for, of course, is Memphis. Because which Memphis will we get? We don't know. Will we get the Memphis who went 15-5 from the beginning of January into the All-Star break? Or will we get the Memphis who lost 5 straight coming out of the All-Star break? That's the team you should feel sad for. Now Memphis has to compete with 5 other teams just for their 8th spot. The team that you shouldn't feel bad for is Orlando. Yes, I understand that the Washington Wizards could potentially have a chance to unseat Orlando, but Orlando this regular season has swept the Washington Wizards in the regular season series 4-0 by an average of 16.5 points. So I'm not worried about the Orlando Magic here. And you shouldn't be either.